The stars outside the window were cold and silent. General Corvin stood alone on the bridge of the flagship Eternal Silence, his 4 eyes fixed on the blue planet below. Earth, the humans called it home. To the Valoran Empire, it was simply the next world to conquer. But Corvin knew better. He had spent 40 cycles studying this species, 40 cycles watching them from the darkness of space. He had seen their cities, their wars, their strange and terrible history. And what he had learned kept him awake at night. The holographic display flickered to life behind him. 12 faces appeared in the air, each one a member of the High Council. They looked bored. They looked confident. They had conquered a dozen worlds before this one. What was one more primitive species? Supreme Commander Velix spoke first. His voice was smooth like oil on water. General Corvin, the Council grows tired of waiting. You have studied these humans for too long. Give us your report so we may begin the invasion. Corvin turned slowly to face them. His gray skin looked pale in the blue light of the hologram. Supreme Commander, honored council members, I must speak plainly. I recommend we abandon this invasion. Then laughter. Counselor Mevin shook his head, his thin mouth curved in amusement. Abandon? General, have you lost your courage? These humans have not even left their own solar system. Their weapons are primitive. Their ships are slow. They are children compared to us. Children, Corvin repeated. He walked toward the display, his boots heavy on the metal floor. Let me tell you about these children. He pressed a button. Images appeared in the air. Cities burning. Bodies in trenches. Mushroom clouds rising over flattened landscapes. This is their history, Corvin said. They call this event World War II. 70 million of their own kind died. 70 million. They killed each other with bombs, with gas, with fire. They starved each other. They worked each other to death in camps. The council watched in silence. And here, more images. They call this the Black Death, a sickness that killed half their population in some regions. Half any other species would have collapsed. They rebuilt. They always rebuild. Supreme Commander Velix raised one hand. Enough. You show us their weakness, General. They fight among themselves. They die easily. This only proves they will fall quickly to our forces. Corvin's eyes narrowed. You misunderstand, Supreme Commander. I am not showing you their weakness. I am showing you their strength. He stepped closer to the hologram, his voice dropping low. The Meldari surrendered after we destroyed 3 cities. The Scython gave up when we killed their leaders. These humans? They have lost millions of their own kind to war, to disease, to disaster. And every single time, they came back stronger. He pointed at the blue planet through the window. There are 8 billion of them down there. 8 billion creatures who have survived ice ages, plagues, and wars that make our conquests look like border skirmishes. They do not surrender. They do not know how. Counselor Vesa leaned forward. You speak as if they are dangerous, General. But look at their technology. Their fastest ships take months to reach their own moon. We crossed galaxies. Technology can be learned, Corvin replied. Courage cannot. Well, cannot. These humans have something I have never seen in any species we have conquered. They have the ability to suffer beyond all reason and still keep fighting. They will sacrifice everything, their cities, their resources, their own lives, just to hurt an enemy. He pulled up one final image. A human soldier, wounded and bleeding, dragging himself across a battlefield with a weapon in his hand. His legs were gone. He was still crawling toward the enemy. This is what we face, Corvin said. Not technology, not strategy. Pure, endless, terrifying will. Supreme Commander Velix stood. His tall form cast a shadow over the other council members. General Corvin, I have heard enough. Your fear has clouded your judgment. The Valoran Empire has never retreated from conquest. We will not start with a species that has not even discovered faster-than-light travel. Supreme Commander, please listen to me. If we invade, we will win battles. We will take cities. But we will never take their spirit. They will fight us in their streets, in their mountains, in their homes. They will poison their own water so we cannot drink it. They will burn their own crops so we cannot eat. They will turn their own bodies into weapons. Velix smiled coldly. Then we will simply kill them all. You cannot kill 8 billion of anything, Corvin said. Not without losing everything yourself. The council exchanged glances. Velix raised his hand for silence. General Corvin, you are stripped of your rank. You will be confined to quarters until further notice. Your cowardice will not infect our soldiers. Guards appeared at Corvin's sides. He did not resist as they took his weapon, his badges, his symbols of rank. He simply looked at the council one last time. You will remember this moment, he said quietly. When your soldiers are dying on that planet, when your ships are burning in their sky, you will remember that I warned you. You will remember that I told you the truth. He paused at the door. You won't survive a war with humans. Then they took him away. Far below, on Earth's moon, Admiral Yuna sat in a small monitoring station. The room was dark, except for the glow of screens. She had been listening to alien transmissions for 3 years. Ever since humanity had first detected the Valoran scouts at the edge of the solar system, most of what she heard was routine. Troop movements. Supply requests. Boring military communications. But today was different. Today, she had intercepted something that made her blood run cold. A warning from an alien general to his own people. A warning about humanity. She played it back again, her fingers trembling over the controls. She listened to Corvin describe human history, human resilience, human will. She listened to him beg his leaders not to invade. She listened to them ignore him when the recording ended. Yuna sat very still for a long moment. Then she began typing a message to Earth Command. Her words were short and simple. They're coming. The invasion is approved. One of their generals tried to stop it. He warned them about us. He told them we would never surrender, never stop fighting, never give up. They didn't listen. She paused, then added one final line. He knows what we are, maybe better than we do. She sent the message and leaned back in her chair. Outside her window, Earth hung in the darkness like a blue jewel. 8 billion people lived down there, unaware of what was coming. But they would learn. They would fight. And they would show the Valoran Empire exactly why General Corvin had been afraid. The stars were no longer cold and silent to Admiral Yuna. They were full of enemies, and humanity was about to meet them. The sky turned red over Seoul on a Tuesday morning. Lieutenant Minho was eating breakfast in the military canteen when the first alarms began to scream. He dropped his spoon and ran. By the time he reached the command center, the screens were filled with fire. Valoran ships descended through the clouds like metal gods. They were massive, each one larger than any building Minho had ever seen. Their weapons fired beams of white light that cut through skyscrapers like paper. In seconds, entire city blocks disappeared. Status report, Colonel Hannah demanded. She stood at the center of the room, her gray hair pulled back tight, her face showing no fear. Around her, officers shouted into radios and typed frantically at computers. Simultaneous attacks confirmed. A young officer called out. Seoul, Mumbai, Snow, Paolo, Lagos, they're hitting every continent at once. Minho watched the screens in horror. He saw families running through streets filled with dust and ash. He saw cars melting from the heat of alien weapons. He saw people looking up at the sky with terror in their eyes. This was not a war. This was an execution, Colonel, another officer said, his voice shaking. We've lost contact with the government. The Blue House is gone. Anna's expression did not change. Then we are the government now. What is our defense status? Missiles launched against the enemy ships. No effect. Their shields are too strong. Our fighters are being shot down before they can get close. Minho stepped forward. Colonel, there must be something we can do. Hannah looked at him for a long moment. Then she walked to a locked panel on the wall and pressed her hand against it. The panel opened to reveal a single red button. Protocol Ember, she said. We built it for this day. Every military satellite, every drone, every defense system on the planet linked into one network. One mind, will it work? Minho asked. I don't know. But it will let us fight back as one species instead of many nations. She pressed the button. Now we see what humanity can do when it stops fighting itself. Across the world, systems came alive. Satellites repositioned. Drones launched from hidden bases. Weapons that had pointed at each other for generations now turned toward the sky. It was not enough to stop the invasion, but it was enough to hurt them. 300 kilometers south, the city of Busan was burning. Do-Yan crawled out from under a collapsed wall, his ears ringing, his mouth full of dust. He was a factory worker. He built machines. He had never held a weapon in his life. Around him, his city had become hell. Buildings leaned at impossible angles. Fires burned in every direction. The air was thick with smoke and screams. A Valoran soldier walked through the ruins nearby. It was tall, gray-skinned, with 4 eyes that scanned the rubble for survivors. In its hands, it carried a weapon that glowed with blue light. Do-Yan did not think. He picked up a metal pipe from the ground and swung it with all his strength. The alien went down. Its weapon clattered across the concrete. Do-Yan stood over it, breathing hard, the pipe dripping with something that was not blood. He had killed an invader from another world with a piece of scrap metal. Other survivors emerged from the ruins. They looked at Do-Yan with wide eyes. They looked at the dead alien at his feet. "They can die," Do-Yan said. His voice was rough from the smoke. "They came here thinking we would surrender. They were wrong." He picked up the alien's weapon. He did not know how to use it yet. He would learn. Who else wants to fight? Hands rose in the smoke and dust. Factory workers, teachers, students, grandmothers. They had no training. They had no supplies. But they had rage, and they had nothing left to lose. Do-Yan led them into the ruins. They had a war to win. Back in Seoul, Minho watched the global feeds with growing amazement. The invasion was barely 72 hours old, and already humanity was fighting back in ways the aliens had never expected in Moscow. Soldiers had collapsed subway tunnels on top of advancing Valoran troops. In Cairo, civilians had flooded the streets with sewage and oil, then set it on fire when enemy vehicles passed through in Tokyo. Engineers had reprogrammed construction drones to carry explosives into alien camps. And everywhere, resistance cells were forming. People who had never met were working together. Languages did not matter. Borders did not matter. For the first time in human history, every single person on Earth had the same enemy. Colonel Hannah stood beside Minho, watching the same screens. "They expected us to break in days," she said. "They do not understand." "Understand what, Colonel?" "That we have been preparing for this moment our entire existence." She pointed at the screens. "Every war we ever fought, every disaster we ever survived, it was all training. Training to fight something like this." A message arrived from the Valoran flagship. Supreme Commander Velix appeared on screen, his 4 eyes narrow with anger. "People of Earth," he said, "your resistance is foolish. You cannot win. Surrender now, and we will spare your cities. Continue to fight, and we will burn your entire planet." Colonel Hannah pressed a button to respond. Her voice was calm and cold. "Supreme Commander, this is Colonel Hannah of the United Earth Defense Force. I speak for all of humanity when I give you our answer." She paused. "Come and take it." She cut the transmission. Minho stared at her. "Colonel, do you think we can actually win this?" Hannah was quiet for a moment. Then she turned to face him. "I think we will make them pay for every meter of ground with blood. I think we will make this invasion so expensive that they will curse the day they ever found our planet. And I think that even if we lose, even if they kill every last one of us, the universe will remember what happened here. They will remember that humanity did not kneel." She put her hand on Minho's shoulder. "We may not survive, Lieutenant, but neither will their arrogance." Across the planet, the war continued. Cities fell. Millions died. But for every human that died, 10 more picked up weapons. For every building that burned, resistance grew stronger. The Valoran ground commander sent a report to Supreme Commander Velix that night. His voice was confused and afraid. "Supreme Commander, I do not understand these creatures. We destroyed their capital cities. We killed their leaders. We have superior weapons, superior numbers, superior technology. But they will not stop. He paused, searching for words. They are using their own dead cities as weapons. They collapse buildings on our troops. They poison their own water supplies so we cannot use them. Yesterday, a human female walked into our camp with explosives strapped to her chest. She was smiling when she died. His voice dropped to a whisper. What kind of species destroys itself just to hurt an enemy? On his throne aboard the Eternal Silence, Supreme Commander Velix had no answer. But in a locked room below decks, the prisoner once known as General Corvin heard the report through the walls. He closed his 4 eyes and whispered to himself. I told you. I tried to warn you. Outside his window, Earth burned, but it did not break. 6 months had passed since the invasion began. The world had changed beyond recognition. The Valoran Empire controlled 40% of Earth's surface. Their flags flew over the ruins of great cities. Their soldiers patrolled streets that had once been filled with human life. From space, the planet looked wounded, its green lands scarred by war, but humanity had not surrendered. Not even close. Lieutenant Minho crouched in a collapsed tunnel beneath what used to be Incheon. His uniform was torn and dirty. A scar ran down the left side of his face, a gift from a Valoran blade 3 months ago. He was no longer the young officer who had eaten breakfast peacefully on the day of the invasion. War had changed him into something harder. Team ready? He whispered into his radio, for voices replied. For soldiers, all that remained of his original unit of 20, they had learned to fight like ghosts, striking fast and vanishing before the enemy could respond. Target is 200 meters north, Minho said. Valoran's supply convoy. 6 vehicles. 20 soldiers. We hit them hard, take what we can carry, and disappear. One soldier asked. Intel says they're transporting humans to Camp 14. What? Minho's jaw tightened. Camp 14. He had heard stories, experiments, torture. The Valorans were trying to understand how humans kept fighting, kept resisting, even when all logic said they should give up. Change of plans, Minho said. We free the prisoners first. Supplies second. They moved through the darkness like shadows. The attack lasted for minutes. For minutes of gunfire, explosions, and screaming aliens. When it was over, 6 Valoran vehicles were burning. 20 enemy soldiers were dead. 32 human prisoners were free. Among them was a woman with glasses and a white coat stained with blood. She was shaking, barely able to stand. I'm Lieutenant Minho, he said, helping her to her feet. What's your name? Dr. Suman, she said. Her voice was weak, but her eyes were sharp. I was a xenobiologist before they took me because of my research. Can you walk? I can do better than that. She grabbed his arm with surprising strength. I need to reach your command. I found something. Something important. What kind of something? Suman looked at him with eyes that had seen terrible things. A weakness. Their weakness. 3 days later, Suman stood before Colonel Hannah in an underground bunker that served as humanity's main command center. Maps covered the walls. Officers worked at computers that ran on emergency power. The air was thick with tension and cigarette smoke, explained, Hannah said simply. Suman pulled up images on a cracked screen. They showed the inside of a Valoran body, alien organs, and strange biological structures. The Valorans evolved on a planet with a different atmosphere than ours, Suman explained. Earth's air is not deadly to them, but it is not ideal. They need a specific chemical compound to breathe properly over long periods. She pointed to structures on the map. Large metal buildings scattered across occupied territory. These are atmospheric processors. The Valorans built them immediately after landing. We thought they were power generators or communication towers. They are not. They are life support. Hannah leaned forward. What happens if we destroy them? Without the compound they produce, Valoran soldiers begin to weaken within 2 weeks. Their reflexes slow. Their thinking becomes clouded. Within a month, they can barely function. Silence filled the room. Then Minho spoke. They'll suffocate on our air. Sumin nodded. Not literally. but effectively, yes. The very atmosphere of our planet will become their enemy. Hannah stood slowly. For the first time since the invasion began, something like hope appeared in her eyes. How many processors are there? Global surveillance counts 47. Some are heavily guarded. Others are in remote locations. But they all need to go down, or the Valorans will simply redistribute resources from surviving units. Can we hit them all at once? Suman hesitated. It would require coordination on a scale we've never attempted. Every resistance cell on the planet would need to strike at the same moment. Hannah smiled. It was not a pleasant smile. It was the smile of a wolf who had finally found her prey's throat. Then that is exactly what we will do. The message went out through 1,000 secret channels. Radio waves, hidden networks, coded messages passed hand to hand. From the mountains of South America to the deserts of Africa. From the frozen ruins of Europe to the jungles of Asia. Resistance fighters received the same orders. Prepare, train, wait for the signal in a small village in the Korean countryside. Doyen received the message. He was no longer just a factory worker with a pipe. He commanded an army of 3,000 civilians. They had captured Valoran weapons. They had built bombs from farming chemicals. They had turned every hill and valley into a death trap for enemy patrols. When? One of his lieutenants asked. Soon, Doyan replied. Very soon. Aboard the Eternal Silence, Supreme Commander Velix grew more frustrated by the day. Reports came in constantly, each one worse than the last. Supply convoys ambushed. Patrols disappearing. Officers assassinated in their own camps. How is this possible? He demanded. We have the most advanced military in the galaxy. These are primitives with improvised weapons. His advisors had no answers. They were afraid of him now. He had executed 3 officers for failure in the past month alone, in his cell. General Corvin heard everything through the thin walls. He heard Velix's rage. He heard the whispered fears of guards. He heard the growing doubt in the voices of soldiers who had once been confident of victory, and he thought about what he had learned from studying humans. They did not fight like other species. They did not calculate odds or measure acceptable losses. They fought with something beyond logic, something that burned in their hearts like fire. Corvin had a word for it now. He had found it in human literature, in their stories and songs. Hope even when everything was lost, humans hoped. And that hope made them dangerous beyond measure, back on Earth. Colonel Hannah stood before a camera that would broadcast to every resistance fighter on the planet. Her face was tired, but her voice was strong. Brothers and sisters of Earth, she began. For 6 months, we have bled. We have lost friends, families, entire cities. The enemy believed we would break. They believed that enough death, enough destruction, would crush our spirit. She paused, letting her words sink in. They were wrong. Tomorrow, we begin the largest coordinated attack in human history. Every resistance cell, every hidden army, every single person who still holds a weapon will strike together. We will destroy their ability to breathe our air. We will turn their invasion into a death trap. Her eyes blazed with cold fire. They came here expecting prey. They found 8 billion reasons to regret that mistake. Tomorrow, we show them what it means to corner a predator. She raised her fist. They cannot break what will not bend. They cannot kill what refuses to die. Tomorrow, we fight. Tomorrow, we take back our world. The transmission ended. Across the planet. In bunkers and basements, in mountains and forests. In the ruins of cities and the depths of tunnels. Billions of humans heard her words, and they prepared for war. Lieutenant Minho checked his weapon one final time. Dr. Suman reviewed her data. Doyan gathered his soldiers. Colonel Hannah looked at the map and planned the destruction of an empire. The night was long and quiet, but dawn was coming, and with it the fire. Operation Crimson Dawn began at exactly 6 in the morning, Earth's Universal Time. Across the planet, in 47 locations, explosions split the air. Resistance fighters stormed Valoran atmospheric processors with weapons, bombs, and desperate courage. The sky itself seemed to catch fire. Lieutenant Minho led the assault on the largest processor in Central Asia. It was a massive structure, taller than any building in the old world, surrounded by walls and guard towers. 300 Valoran soldiers protected it. Minho had 80 fighters. Most of them were not soldiers. They were farmers, students, office workers who had learned to kill. They attacked anyway. First wave. Move now. Minho shouted. Explosives blew holes in the outer wall. Fighters poured through, firing captured alien weapons. Beside him, a young man named Jiho ran with a pack of explosives on his back. He was 20 years old. Before the invasion, he had been studying to become a teacher. Now he was one of Minho's best soldiers. "Sir, the main gate is too heavily defended," Jiho called out. "We're losing people." Minho looked at the battlefield. Bodies lay everywhere, human and alien. The processor towered above them, still pumping chemicals into the air. If it kept running, everything they had sacrificed would be for nothing. "We need to get explosives inside the main reactor," Minho said. "It's the only way. The entrance is sealed. 3 feet of alien metal, then we find another way." They found one. A ventilation shaft on the east side, barely wide enough for a human body, too small for the bulky Valoran soldiers to follow. But the shaft was a one-way trip. It led directly into the reactor core. Anyone who entered would not come out. Jiho looked at the shaft, then at Minho. Understanding passed between them. "I'll do it," Jiho said quietly. "No. We can find another option." "There is no other option, sir. You know it." "I know it." He smiled, a strange, peaceful expression on a battlefield. "My family died in the first attacks. I have nothing left except this. Let me make it count." Minho wanted to argue. He wanted to order Jiho to stand down, but he saw the truth in the young man's eyes. Some decisions could not be unmade. "You're a hero," Minho said. "Korea will remember your name." "Make sure we win," Jiho replied. "That's all the memory I need." Climbed into the shaft and disappeared into darkness. Mina kept fighting. He killed 6 more Valorans. He took 2 bullets to his left arm. He kept fighting. 3 minutes later, the processor exploded. A pillar of fire rose into the sky, visible for hundreds of kilometers. The reactor core had been destroyed completely. Around the world, similar signals appeared on Colonel Hannah's screens. One by one, atmospheric processors died. 47 targets. 47 explosions. 47 victories paid for in blood. Crimson Dawn successful, Hannah announced. 89% of enemy atmospheric processing capacity destroyed. Her command center erupted in cheers. Officers hugged each other. Some cried. But Hannah did not celebrate. She watched the orbital displays waiting. She knew what came next. Aboard the Eternal Silence, Supreme Commander Velix received the news in silence. His 4 eyes stared at the reports without blinking. His hands trembled with rage. "We destroyed them all," his aide said carefully. "Our soldiers will begin showing symptoms within 2 weeks. Full capability loss within a month." Velix stood slowly. His voice was barely a whisper. "Then we will not need a month. Open a channel to all ships. Authorization Velix Prime." The aide hesitated. "Commander, that authorization is for... ... You know what it is for. Do it." Minutes later, Velix's face appeared on every Valoran ship in orbit. His voice was cold and flat. "All vessels, this is Supreme Commander Velix. Our ground campaign has failed. The humans have proven themselves too stubborn to conquer, too vicious to control. Therefore, I am ordering full orbital bombardment of all major population centers. We will sterilize this planet. If we cannot have Earth, no one will." In the ships, soldiers looked at each other in shock. This was not conquest. This was extinction. In a small cell on the lowest deck of the Eternal Silence, General Corvin heard the order. His blood went cold. Extinction. Velix had lost his mind. He was going to destroy everything, humans and Valorans alike, just to satisfy his wounded pride. The door to his cell opened. 3 soldiers stood outside, their weapons aimed at the floor instead of at him. General Corvin once said, "We heard the order. We cannot follow it. Then you know what must be done. We need a leader. Someone who can stop this madness." Corvin stepped out of his cell. For the first time in months, he felt like himself again. He felt like a soldier. "How many are with us?" 4 ships have refused the bombardment order. Their captains are waiting for your command. Let us give them something to fight for. Civil war erupted in Earth's orbit. Valoran fought Valoran. Ships that had traveled across galaxies together now fired upon each other. The night sky above Earth filled with explosions as the Empire tore itself apart. On the ground, humans watched in amazement. Minho stood in the ruins of the destroyed processor, his arm wrapped in bloody bandages, staring upward. "What's happening?" one of his soldiers asked. "I don't know," Minho replied. "But someone up there is fighting for us." Colonel Hannah received a transmission on a frequency she had never seen before. A gray face appeared on her screen. 4 eyes looked at her with exhaustion and determination. "I am General Corvon, of the Valoran Loyalist Forces," he said. "I have taken command of 4 vessels. We have refused Supreme Commander Velix's order to destroy your planet." Hannah stared at him. "You're the one who warned them about us." They did not listen. "Now Velix has lost all reason. He would rather burn your world than admit defeat. I cannot allow this. Why should I trust you?" Corvon was silent for a moment. "Because I have spent 40 cycles studying your species. I know what you are. I know what you are capable of. And I believe that if our positions were reversed, if Valorans were the ones fighting for survival, I would want someone to stand with us." He leaned closer to the camera. "I cannot undo what we have done to your planet. I cannot bring back the millions who have died. But I can help you end this war. I can help you stop Velix before he kills everyone, human and Valoran alike." Hannah considered his words. Her instinct said to refuse. This was the enemy. His people had killed her family, her friends, her entire world. But war was not about instincts. It was about winning. "What do you propose?" she asked. "A joint assault on the Eternal Silence. My ships will engage Velix's fleet. Your forces will board the flagship and eliminate the command structure. If we move quickly, we can end this today and after. What happens when Velix is dead? Then I will order all Valoran forces to withdraw from your system. We will leave and never return. You have my word." Hannah looked at the map on her wall. She thought about everyone who had died. She thought about Jiho, who had given his life to destroy a single building. "Your word means nothing to me," she said. "But your ships do. We attack in 6 hours. Don't be late." She cut the transmission and turned to her officers. "Prepare a boarding party. Lieutenant Minho will lead it. Across the planet, in the ruins and the bunkers, in the mountains and the plains, humanity prepared for one final battle. They had broken the enemy's ability to survive on their world. Now they would break the enemy completely. The stars above Earth were filled with fire, but the fire was about to burn much brighter. The boarding ships launched from Earth's surface at midnight. Minho sat in the lead vessel with 40 of humanity's best soldiers. They wore captured Valoran armor, modified to fit human bodies. They carried weapons taken from dead enemies. They were tired, wounded, and scarred from months of war. They had never been more dangerous. Approaching the Eternal Silence, the pilot announced, "Corvon's ships are engaging the enemy fleet. We have a window." Minho looked at his soldiers. Some he had known since the beginning. Others had joined just weeks ago. All of them understood that many would not return. "We have one objective," he said. "Find Supreme Commander Velix. End him. Cut off the head, and the body dies. And if we fail," someone asked, "then we take as many of them with us as possible. We make them remember that they should never have come to our world." The ship shuddered as it entered the flagship's landing bay. Alarms screamed. Valoran soldiers rushed to meet them. The battle began. Minho moved through the alien ship like a force of nature. Every corner held enemies. Every corridor was a battlefield. He fired until his weapon overheated, then drew his knife and kept fighting. Humans fell around him. For every one that died, they killed 10 Valorans. The aliens were weakening now, their movements slow, their aim poor. The loss of the atmospheric processors was affecting them, just as Dr. Suman had predicted. Main corridor ahead, Minho called out. The bridge is through those doors. 20 humans remained from the original 40. 20 soldiers against whatever waited behind those doors, they went in anyway. The bridge of the eternal silence was massive, filled with screens and control panels and the bodies of dead Valorans. Corvin's loyalists had attacked from inside the ship, killing officers who had supported the bombardment order. At the center of it all stood Supreme Commander Velix. He was alone. His guards were dead. His officers had abandoned him, but he stood tall, his 4 eyes burning with hatred. So he said, "The primitive species reaches my throne at last." Minho stepped forward, his soldiers spreading out behind him. "Your invasion is over, Velix. Your fleet is burning. Your army is dying. Surrender." Velix laughed. It was a terrible sound. "Surrender. I have destroyed 12 civilizations. I have conquered more worlds than you can count. I do not surrender to creatures who still use chemical explosives and metal projectiles." He raised a weapon, a personal sidearm crackling with energy. "I will kill you all, and then I will finish what I started. Your planet will burn," he fired. Minho moved faster than he had ever moved in his life. He rolled under the beam of light, came up running, and tackled Velix before the alien could fire again. They hit the floor together, struggling for the weapon. Velix was taller, stronger, despite his weakened state. His 4 eyes glared into Minho's face with pure contempt. "You cannot defeat me, human. I am the supreme commander of the Valoran Empire." Minho reached for his belt. His fingers closed around the handle of a knife. A simple blade, steel and leather, the same basic design humans had used for 10,000 years. "You know what you never understood about us?" Minho said through gritted teeth. "We don't need advanced technology to kill. We've been killing each other since before your empire existed." He drove the knife into Velix's chest. The Supreme Commander stared at the blade in disbelief. He had been killed not by a laser, not by a bomb, but by a piece of sharpened metal. The most primitive weapon in the galaxy? "Impossible," he whispered. "Nothing is impossible for humans," Minho replied. Velix's 4 eyes went dark. The Supreme Commander of the Valoran Empire died on the floor of his own ship. Killed by a soldier from a planet he had tried to destroy, the remaining Valoran's forces surrendered within hours. General Corvin came aboard the Eternal Silence to formally end the war. He stood before Colonel Hanna in the ruined bridge, surrounded by human soldiers and Valoran prisoners. "The invasion is over," he said. "All Valoran forces will withdraw from your system within 30 days. We will never return." Hanna studied him with cold eyes. "How do I know you'll keep your word?" "Because I have seen what your species is capable of. I warned my people before this war began. They did not listen. Now half our fleet is destroyed, and our invasion force is crippled." He paused. "I have no desire to see what humanity would do if we came back." Hanna nodded slowly. "One more question, Corvin. You've studied us for 40 years. You tried to stop this invasion. Why? Why did you care what happened to us?" Corvin was quiet for a long moment. When he spoke, his voice was soft. "Because in all my travels across the galaxy and all the species I have encountered, I have never seen anything like humanity. You are fragile. Your bodies break easily. Your lives are short. And yet you fight as if you are immortal. You hope when there is no reason to hope. You love when love brings you nothing but pain." He looked around at the human soldiers, at their tired faces and wounded bodies. "My empire conquers because we are strong, but you survive because you are something else entirely. You are stubborn. You are beautiful. And you are absolutely terrifying." He almost smiled. "I think the universe needs species like you, even if it does not know it yet." The Valoran fleet withdrew. True to his word, Corvan led his remaining ships out of the solar system. He never looked back. 10 years passed, Earth rebuilt. Cities rose from the ashes, taller and stronger than before. The scars of war faded slowly, replaced by monuments and memories. Dr. Suman founded the Institute of Xenobiology, the first human organization dedicated to understanding alien life. Doyon served in the new unified Earth Parliament, representing the millions of civilian fighters who had refused to surrender. Colonel Hannah retired as a living legend, the woman who had held humanity together when everything seemed lost, and Minho, the young lieutenant who had killed an Empire's leader with a knife, was now General Minho. He commanded Earth's first interstellar defense fleet. 100 ships built with technology salvaged from Valoran wrecks and improved by human engineers. He stood on the bridge of the flagship Unity when the message arrived. General, we're receiving a transmission from the outer system. It's not Valoran. Minho looked at the screen. 3 alien ships had appeared at the edge of the solar system. They were different from Valoran designs, smaller and stranger. Open a channel, he ordered. A face appeared on screen. It was not gray and four-eyed like the Valorans. It was purple, with a single large eye and tentacles where a mouth should be. But the expression somehow was unmistakably nervous. "Humans of Earth," the alien said in broken English. "We are the Melvari. We come in peace. We have heard stories. Stories of the species that broke the Valoran Empire. Stories of the death world that would not surrender." Minho kept his face neutral. "What do you want?" "Our world is threatened. The Scython Collective has targeted us for conquest. We are not warriors. We are scientists, builders, dreamers. We do not know how to fight." The alien's single eye glistened with what might have been tears. "We come to ask for your help, not your weapons or your soldiers. Just your knowledge. We want you to teach us how you did it, how you survived when survival was impossible, how you fought when all hope was gone." Minho was silent for a long moment. He thought about everyone who had died. He thought about Jiho climbing into that ventilation shaft. He thought about Velix's look of disbelief as a simple knife ended his life. He thought about General Korvan's words, spoken years ago in a burned and broken ship. "The universe needs species like you. You want us to teach you how to survive?" Minho said. "Yes, please." Minho looked out the window at the stars. They were no longer cold and threatening. They were full of possibilities, full of species waiting to be discovered, full of futures waiting to be written. He remembered what Korvan had said. He remembered the warning the Valoran general had given his own people, the warning they had ignored. You won't survive a war with humans. It was still true. It would always be true. But maybe, just maybe, that was not the only thing humanity had to offer the universe. Minho smiled. It was a warm smile, kind, despite everything he had been through. Survive? We'll teach you more than that. We'll teach you to thrive. But first, let me tell you what happens when you underestimate a species born in fire. Hey. The alien leaned forward eagerly, and humanity's greatest general began to speak. Outside the window, the stars waited. They had seen empires rise and fall, species bloom and die. They had watched humanity crawl from caves to starships. Now, it would watch something new. Humanity was no longer alone in the universe, and the universe would never be the same. The war was over. The future had begun.